Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. Lots of craziness out there. We were talking about the Schumann resonance and the ascension process, which could be very, very painful. So is the disclosure process, though. That's kind of painful, too. It's like, come on, somebody land and just say hi.
And they're working on it.
Yeah, they are working on it. As you look at this, this is a unusual U-shaped object. Again, so much stuff is probably ours. But then there's a lot of stuff that still could be terrestrial, but not be made by Homo sapiens.
There's just a lot of stuff we don't know.
Well, we know we're not alone. We're not the only intelligent, and that could be debated at times, humanity and intelligence, entities out there in the universe. Oh, no way. Always, I think there's been this separation between those that think we're completely alone. And I think there's a lot of people that are very solidly in one camp or the other. It's going to be a shock if you don't think there really is any chance of life out there when we get verification, because it's coming. It's just, we've already had verification, as we've said. And I do think also there's a lot of beings out there that are showing themselves sometimes very intentionally. Very intentionally. It's all over the world, these close encounters. And they do tend to have an interest in nuclear power and nuclear power plants or military operations as well. And, historically, we've had so many different encounters over these areas throughout history.
I think there needs to be some measure of somebody out there is watching, and our leaders should pay attention to that.
Yeah, very, very interesting times, to say the least. And then Comet Atlas, 3-eye Atlas, is just so unusual. We were just watching the Angry Astronaut, who has a great channel and covers all these things in great detail. So as he was just alluding to, and there's several articles talking about this quote-unquote comet, is releasing carbon dioxide. And when we look at historically other quote-unquote comets, because again, they may or may not really be comets, they could be something else. They haven't just released only CO2. And so this is unique in that sense. The size of it, again, 46 kilometer diameter, is pretty big. It's just unusual and surprising in almost every way. One thing that the Angry Astronaut brought up, which I thought was very, very interesting, because we've talked about, would extraterrestrials, really advanced beings, utilize things like comets and asteroids flying through space as either a weapon of war, or, as he brought up, what could be a better way, transportation? What if you, modified it, turned it into a giant mothership, small mini planet, and used it to go, traveling around? He just thought it seemed logical.
It's something different. There's no denying that anymore.
You just simply nudge trajectories. Again, anything is really possible. But what we're seeing as far as the observations, and these new observations are revealing a cloud of carbon dioxide, CO2, around 3-eye Atlas, corresponding to a mass loss rate of around 70 kilograms per second. No water cloud was detected with upper limit of 4.5 kilograms per second on the water mass loss rate. This is an order of magnitude below the previous claims of water detection with a mass loss rate of the order of 40 kilograms per second at a larger distance from the sun of 3.5 AU. Again, astronomical unit is the distance the Earth is from the sun. So to give you an idea, what is really going on with this? For sure, Avi Loeb is really concerned about this. as it seems he is quoted as much as anybody, Harvard astrophysicist, by the way, with his thoughts that, this looks like it's highly likely, highly possible that it could be some sort of alien ship. And again, nothing is ordinary about this. Interesting to note, this is coming out of Sagittarius. And when you look to Sagittarius in astrology, it is symbolized by the archer, also the centaur. So think about that, half man, half horse. That gets me into all the mythology, because when we look at the Greek mythology, again, the Olympian gods, what we have gotten were very real. In fact, the Olympian gods were one and the same with what you might call the Nephilim, these hybrids caused by the co-mixing of what was here with those that we call the Anunnaki, that came down here and was creating a perfect slave race. Well, they did a lot of genetic testing, and they created a lot of different hybrids. And in fact, from what we understand, in the deep underground military bases that are still try to keep as secret as possible, they're still doing this to this day. There is, of course, there's a lot of there are a lot of weird cases of unusual cryptid-like activity. I think of the lizard men over there in central South Carolina, the greater Columbia area. Well, the lizard man sightings were very interesting. And when we had Cindy remote view it, what she found was this was one of those experiments that was going on down in the underground military base area. By the way, that lizard man's, and again, I'll bring up the USGS just to give you a look at the area that I'm talking about. I'm not sure if we had any quakes there in the last 30 days, but there have been some unusual quakes in South Carolina. Just saying. I think a lot of times when you see quake activity that clusters in an area that's not known for it, and especially when they're not too deep, I start thinking underground military base. And this area right here is actually not too far, again, from Fort Jackson, one of the biggest military bases in the whole country. You can see this is Fort Jackson, this gray area here, or tannish area. And then there's been in the past swarms of earthquakes over by Elgin. I lived in Elgin for a while. That was my home base. And so, yeah, I do think, again, and then the lizard man sighting was basically just over in this area. So not far, Bishopville Monster. Again, when we're thinking about this and the fact that hybrids are part of our past and they're part of the now. In fact, I think Homo sapiens sapiens is a manufactured race, intentionally manufactured, again, to be controllable, but we're not so controllable now that the ascension process is kicking in and a lot of our genes are turning on. So I find it fascinating, too, that it's coming out of Sagittarius, and Cindy can tell us more about Sagittarius.
Well, it's the 9th astrological sign. So what is 9? This is symbolizing completion. And the other thing that came to me straight away was judgment, which, could be good or bad. So I thought those were interesting things that came around. And then when asking, I was trying to get more information from the Galactic Federation, and their only comment is, everyone knows it's there. Everyone knows it's there. So I didn't get any further information on that. I think we're being called to go within and search. And I also feel with something this size, it could very well be doing something to our vibration, changing us in many ways, because I've gotten several texts from people that are just really struggling right now. They're having a hard time. They're exhausted. They're lethargic. They're foggy.
And I don't want to blame that on this Comet Atlas. Again, that's still astronomical units away from us. But I think there's a lot of beings that are very interested in Earth at this time, because it's like, are we going to welcome them to the party? I think that's what a lot of them are like, well, guys, can we let them know? Are we officially going to welcome them to the neighborhood, or do we have to go on ignoring them?
Right. I think, right now I don't see a whole lot of people who are worthy of being welcomed into the cosmos. I just don't. There's not very many. But, all we got to do is keep trying. We have to keep trying, and we have to hold out hope. And, well, that's the information that I got out of this.
Well, I do think, again, probably a third, from what I've seen, quoted, about a third of the people on Earth are starseed lightworkers. So, again, this means ultimately that we came from out there to be here, to take a human incarnation so we could help the 2/3 or 3/4 that haven't experienced the reality of life on other planets. So, it's a big awakening. And also when you look to this, the centaur of mythology, the learned healer whose higher intelligence forms a bridge between earth and heaven. Doesn't that sound like what we're talking about? Are we going to have that bridge to, basically be welcome to the greater neighborhood and have the interactions that we always had in the past? Because we did always interact with these beings. Every single culture has mythology of quote-unquote gods. Again, they didn't think that these were necessarily the creator of heaven and earth. No, it's only with the advent of monotheistic thinking that everything got garbled. They understood these were beings that did have more knowledge than us, and were not necessarily from here. Some were, from, again, inner earth or under the oceans and cities under the ocean. Or different dimensions, just slightly off of ours, but some of them had the technology to come and to interact with us. And it's only really at the end of the Bronze Age, and obviously in the Kali Yuga, that the dominant beings were what we would call malevolent and not benevolent. In the other ages, they're benevolent because, in reality, even though there are intergalactic wars going on, when you're looking at that, it's really just a small sliver of the all that has that type of conflict and heaviness to it.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's, we're going to a different place, and I know people are changing in vibration. I mean, the earth is speaking, our bodies are responding. We have these things coming in. We have all the signs pointing toward changes coming. So, just keep rolling with the punches. It's not easy out there. Keep moving forward. Keep doing better. Keep drinking lots of water. Keep putting healthy things in your body, even if it's baby steps. Keep loving yourself. Keep taking care of your temple, because that's going to be the medium from, between out there and here.
Again, the evidence of us interacting with beings that we would take to be Nephilim is everywhere. Really, tell me, why would you make a door that big? And why would you put a bar 30 feet off the ground? Who's going to reach that bar 30 feet off the ground? I mean, seriously now.
Yeah, it's a little different.
It's pretty ridiculous, but then that's what they've given us for the Kali Yuga. A lot of ridiculous tales. So keep on awakening as many as you can. We invite you to join us on Patreon or as members on YT as well. Source bless, guys. Much love. Look forward to your comments. Namaste.
Namaste.